points. All three major indices were briefly up this morning, but that came after a false report claimed that President Trump was going to pause the tariffs for 90 days. That was not true. The president continues to stick with his trade policies. New tariffs on American trading partners are on track to kick in on Wednesday. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced on X the U.S. will begin negotiating with Japan after President Trump says he spoke with the nation earlier today about the tariffs. Among the business community, there are growing concerns about the future of the economy. Goldman Sachs now raising the odds of a U.S. recession up 10 percentage points, now sitting at 45%.
Let's bring in NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans and NBC News White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard. Christine, let's start with you. Clearly, it has been a roller coaster day for Wall Street. What happened today? And bottom line, what do Americans need to know?
You know, a third down day, a really rough go at it. When you look at the Dow is down more than 15% this year. For the first, by the way, the worst performance of markets in the beginning of a president's term since World War II. And when you talk about today's action, I mean, it closed down 300 some points in the Dow, but my goodness, at one point the Dow was down more than 1,700 points, then turned around and surged to the green on the top of your screen on that chart, surged up more than 800, and then came back to close lower again. So it just shows you how jittery, how nervous, how overwrought the markets have been over this trade war.
Vaughn, let me go to you. President Trump spoke from the White House about the tariffs and was asked if the intention is to use them as a negotiating tool. What did he say?
Right. We were watching this unfold here from the White House. He was sitting next to Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu as these markets were still open. And there was a question from directly the President of the United States whether the implementation of these tariffs in the days and weeks ahead are a negotiating tactic and that countries are able to work with this White House to bring the tariffs that have been levied by the administration down in exchange for certain concessions, or whether these are permanent tariffs that are intended to uproot the trading relations between the U.S. and these various trade partners and increase, whether it be manufacturing or other manufacturing here inside of the United States. I want to let you listen directly to the president talk about the decisions of these tariffs.
We're going to get fair deals and good deals with every country, and if we don't, we're going to have nothing to do with them. They're not going to be allowed to participate in the United States.
He was asked again to clarify whether these were permanent tariffs, because when he about Israel, for instance, who he levied a 17% on, Benjamin Netanyahu just minutes earlier had said that they wanted to eliminate all trade barriers between the two nations, and said that he understood the president wanted not only free but fair trade. But then when the president was asked about the willingness of the administration to eliminate the new 17% tariff on Israel, he said, maybe not, we'll see, suggesting that the U.S. already provides them billions of dollars in military defense. So I think this is where there are a lot of countries that are going to be looking at these negotiations that are taking place with perhaps no other greater ally to the president than Bibi Netanyahu.
So, Christine, we have these fresh remarks that Vaughn just walked us through from President Trump, but now we're also hearing from business leaders and even some of his supporters who seem to be taking, well, a different take.
Oh, absolutely. You're hearing from more people sort of stepping out there and saying, look, these tariffs could be dangerous. Bill Ackman, the billionaire hedge fund guru who supports Donald Trump, saying, look, these tariffs, they are going to really be a problem. You should pause them for 90 days and negotiate. He called it a nuclear winter. He said that this is it will induce a nuclear winter in the global economy and is a really bad idea. Larry Fink, another big luminary on Wall Street, saying that we could be in a recession right now because of these tariffs. And Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan, in a carefully worded criticism, I would call it, but essentially saying that tariffs will be inflationary and slow growth, something we heard from the Fed chief earlier this week. So you're hearing from some pretty bright lights in the financial world that they don't agree with the path that this White House is on.
Vaughn, I have to ask you quick about another bit of news that came out when reporters were with the president in the Oval Office. It was involving talks with Iran. What do we need to know?
Right. The president indicating that his administration is going to have high-level talks with Iran beginning this upcoming Saturday. He did not stipulate exactly who the officials on the Iranian side or the U.S. side were that were going to be engaged in those direct talks. But of course, it was his first administration that ended the Iran nuclear deal, or removed, I should say, the United States from the agreement with Iran. It is a serious question now exactly what these talks will look like and what he is seeking in terms of concessions from Iran. He noted that the only other option that Iran has besides having direct talks is an option that they know is obvious, and they don't want to know what that obvious other option is. Guys.
Yeah, a lot more to come on a very volatile Monday, volatile start to the week. Thank you both for tracking it all. We really appreciate it. Christine Romans and Vaughn Hilliard, thanks so much.
The president